All right, welcome back live. We continue right here on Pittsburgh CW. Bob Pompeani, Ron Cook with you. It's 412-575-2600. Thursday begins 3 days. They spread it all for television now. First round on Thursday night. There are a number of ways the Steelers can go, but one area that they possibly looked at was outside linebacker if they determined they weren't going to bring back Bud Dupree. But today they did. Ron, fifth-year option. He is guaranteed $9 million against injury next year. And that's a big leap of faith, I think. He hasn't been exactly the player they thought he would be. He's been good, but he's not been great. They wanted great.
Well, maybe he has been the player they thought. I don't think he's been the player everybody else on the outside thought. I've been very disappointed in his career. Not like Jarvis Jones. I won't say he's a bust. Jarvis Jones was a bust. But I thought so much better from Dupree. Not last year, but 16, he was hurt to start. And then I thought he really came on strong the second half of 2016. But last year, I didn't see much, and they clearly did. They think they have something for the future with T.J. Watt. I think this means they will not probably draft an outside linebacker in the first round. I think they're committed to Dupree. Now, they can cut him, I guess, at the end of the season if he plays poorly. He's protected by injury like Shazier was this year, but they've said that's not the way they do business. They're committing to him for 18 and 19. Hopefully they're right about his ability to make some big plays.
Yes, they also drop him back into coverage more. They wanted a more, he can do a lot of things. And
why James Harrison didn't get on the field.
Exactly. He was a one-trick pony, to use Mike Tomlin's terms. Let's go to the lines. We'll begin with Mark in Ambridge. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Bob, thank you for taking my call tonight. I really appreciate it tonight. I'm just sad. Before I tell you my Penguin comment, I'm the big Bruno fan, so this is like a rough day.
Yeah, rough indeed.
I mean, I grew up idolizing the guy, But anyway, you and Ron didn't get a chance to see at the end of the Capitals game, they interviewed a veteran. He says, I can't wait to take on the Penguins.
I saw that.
Okay, like an arrogant comment.
No, it wasn't arrogant. No, it wasn't arrogant.
What's he supposed to say? I'm sure he's looking forward to it. He hasn't beaten them yet. He wants to beat them.
Well, okay, I'm going to put you guys on the spot. Can you both just give me your game predictions, how many, and I'll tell you good night. Thank you.
All right, yeah. I don't think it was arrogant at all. I just said they asked him, he says, I can't wait. He didn't say in a snide way or a cocky way at all. He just said, I can't wait.
What, 7?
And I guess what? The Penguins can't wait either because they've owned that team, so we'll see.
They went 7 last year, and they won down there after losing they lost 5 and 6, if I'm not mistaken, last year. Went down to Washington, won 7. Year before, they won in overtime on the Bonino goal. In 6 games. I like them in 6. I like them to wrap it up at home this time. Hopefully they don't have to go back to Washington for a 7th game. But one of these years, Washington's going to win, and I just hope it's not this year.
And until they do, I'm not going to pick them. I'm going to pick Penguins in 7. I predicted the 6 games for the Flyers series. I gave Flyers, enough credit that they could win a couple. I wasn't sure how they were going to do it because their goaltending always scared me. But I think in this series, it will all come down to Braden Holtby. Quite frankly, in my book. If he plays the way he's capable of, it'll make it tough. I like a Penguins win in 7 games. That'll be what I say. So we'll see what happens. Let's go to Don in Mount Washington. Don, you're on the air. Hi.
Hey, Bob. How you doing? Yeah,
What's up?
I just heard that you said the Penguins in 7, but I'm going 6. I think we can still beat Veskin. We beat him last year, and I agree with that our caller that called and said that he heard what Veskin said, and I think we'll beat him again. Have a good night and take care.
All right, thanks. Ron, I will tell you this. You mentioned the speed of the Columbus. They are faster. Washington's not that fast, and quite frankly, I think their defensemen are slow too, and the Penguins will get to their cycle down there. Brooks Orpik, to me, was a nice signing at the time. I think that they did that because they thought they could win over the last couple of years before it ever come to this. Now, it's expensive for him. It's expensive for Niskanen. They're not getting any younger, and I think that defense is not as good, at least mobile, as the Penguins.
Yeah, but as you point out, Bob, it does come down to the goaltending, and Murray has been up to the challenge since he's got here 2 years ago. I would expect he'll play really well. I thought Sunday was about the worst game he had in the series, but he usually bounces back. And what is he bounced back even after the loss in Game 5? He's 10-1 now after losses. I like those numbers.
Yeah, I do too. Get your tweets in, 412, actually that's not it. It's at KD Pump and at Ron Cook PG. We have a couple of people here. Linda Hyman, who says the Toronto series is intriguing. She believes that Toronto will win that now. If they do, it doesn't matter who does. They got to go to Tampa over the weekend, most likely there, since that game is going to be on a Wednesday night, Ron. So, I mean, you look at the Western Conference. Let's talk about that real quick, because I think those teams have waited a long time to play.
I can't wait for either one of those series.
Nashville-Winnipeg is going to be a heavyweight match, and I like Winnipeg to win it.
I'm going to go with Nashville in that one. Basically, because I hope they don't get to the final and I have to go to Winnipeg. That's
It's a beautiful this time of year.
It's still about the last place I want to go to. I am really looking forward to Vegas and San Jose. Both of those teams won their series in sweeps. Fleury, obviously, stopping 127 of 130 shots. Martin Jones, not much worse, 128 of 132. Both of those teams won in sweeps. Both goaltenders phenomenal. I really like that. I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to pick Vegas to win another series. Going to be very difficult, though.
Yeah, I think so. It will be difficult. I'm going to go with San Jose in that series. I just think the addition of Evander Kane, I also look at that team as due. They're sort of like Washington of the West to me. They have a lot of guys who've been around a long time together, and they're good enough. And goaltending, Martin Jones is healthy, and I think he'll be a big difference in this one, even though I expect Fleury to be on top of his game. And the other one would be, we talked about both those. You gave the prediction. Now let's go to line 4. That's Eric in Johnstown. Hey, Eric, how are you?
Good. How are you?
All right, what's up?
I want to talk two things here. First off, I want to ask, is there any update in Carl Hagelin's condition?
Nope.
And the other thing I want to talk, go ahead.
No update.
There was no practice today, no availability. I'm assuming
tomorrow.
Tomorrow, and the good thing is he'll probably have a couple more days yet to get. I'm not as worried about him as Malkin. They got to get Malkin back.
But they'll have some days. Go ahead. What else?
And the other thing, the Philly game last night, that was a disgrace for them to throw beer cans out and do all this stuff down here. You know, I think them people should have been cited with disorderly conduct. They're putting pictures of Crosby in.
How about arrest?
I heard. And, you know, the NHL got to do something about this. They got to end this.
How about arrest? You know, I mean, you throw a can that's filled with beer. This is an object that can do some harm.
And it's not just the Penguins players who are in danger.
It's anyone.
The Flyers are in danger as well.
An official.
I guess Jim Rutherford spoke out about it today. He was disgusted. This only seems to happen in Philadelphia. The Flyer fans are the worst I've ever been around. Now, I guess this is damning them with praise. People in Philly tell me the Eagles fans are even worse. What does that say about that city and that sports fans? And it's not everybody, I get that. But they've earned the reputation of being a disgrace, and they are for me.
It's almost like they enjoy that reputation of being,
try to live down to it
I mean,
every day.
And they do it when they win. I never understood that concept where somebody wins and somebody, I also think there are a lot of people who don't even understand what they're getting involved with, but they see a riot and they want to join in. Right. That's just the way it goes.
They're not looking. It's not about celebrating
no.
or being upset about a loss. It's being a nameless, faceless crowd and acting like an idiot and a jerk, and there's a lot of people in Philly like that.
But you shouldn't be nameless or faceless in this world of social media, and somebody has a picture of somebody wailing that on. There are too many cell phones around. I think that should be brought to the officials, and they should be arrested for that. That is intent to injure with a weapon, essentially. So I'm sorry. You got to be hard line with these people. You can't do anything slap on a wrist or else they get away with it, and they'll do it again. We're due for a break. 412-575-2600. Back right after this.